Well, the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Focac Summit recently ended. It's a triennial conference between China and African countries to discuss economic cooperation, development, and global issues.
The first Focac summit was held in the year 2000 in Beijing, China. Subsequent summits in 2003 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, 2006 in Beijing, China, and of course in 2009 at the Sharm el Sheikh, 2012 again in Beijing, China, and of course in 2015 in Johannesburg, South Africa. Beijing, China in 2018, and in 2021, if you recall, it was in Dakar, Senegal.
Indeed, the summit has been around for quite some time, and participants at this summit are China's president, the premier, African heads of state and government representatives from the African Union Commission, African Development Bank, international organizations, business leaders, and entrepreneurs.
Key areas of focus for the Focac Summit are economic cooperation, trade and investment, infrastructure development like energy and transportation, among others, industrialization, agricultural modernization, and manufacturing.
Other areas are peace and security, counter-terrorism, maritime security, peacekeeping and conflict resolution, international cooperation, climate change and environmental protection.
Not forgetting public health and medical cooperation, global governance and multilateralism, people-to-people exchange, culture and education, science and technology, tourism, and people-to-people diplomacy.
Well, let's just say it's almost all aspects of development. Well, the summit often ends with action plans and declarations, investment agreements and partnerships, development assistance and funding commitments, strategic partnerships and cooperation frameworks. Initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative, China-Africa Industrial Capacity Cooperation, and China-Africa Green Development Initiative.
Over the years, the Focac Summit has deepened China-Africa relations and cooperation, increased trade and investment flows, enhanced economic growth and development in Africa, and strengthened African voices in global governance while promoting South-South cooperation and multilateralism.
So today on Good Morning Nigeria, we are focusing on the 2024 Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, Focac Summit, a pivotal gathering that strengthens ties between China and African nations.
As Nigeria continues to participate in this significant event, we will examine the country's engagement opportunities and challenges from infrastructure development to trade agreements. We'll delve into the key takeaways from the summit and how they impact Nigeria's economic growth, global standing, and bilateral relations with China.
And our guests will provide insights into the summit's outcomes, Nigeria's strategic interests, and the future of China-Africa cooperation. Welcome to the program. I am Victor Azu.
And I'm Henry John. Let me also welcome you to the program. We're reaching you live on the network service of the NTA, Africa's largest television network. Just to let you know that Chukwudi Okoli-Ugbaja will join us in the course of this program for the newspaper review. But for now, let's pause and let Frama feed us with the morning news. Frama, good morning to you.
Good morning, Yere. Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Nigerians. Now, the morning news. The Nigerian Labour Congress has confirmed the release of its president, Joseph Ajero, from detention. NLC Head of Information, Benson Ba, says Ajero was released late at night after hours of detention by the security agency. The NLC president was picked up by the DSS at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, and rode to the United Kingdom to attend a trade union congress. Meanwhile, NLC has summoned an emergency meeting of the National Executive Council today to address the issue. The Nigerian and Chinese governments have agreed on new terms to strengthen cooperation on media. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, signed the Memorandum of Understanding in Beijing on behalf of Nigeria. The agreement between the ministry and the Chinese media group is to enhance transfer of technology, personal training and procurement of equipment.
And that the Chinese government has gone very far in terms of media technology, in terms of media training. So we want to leverage on that, and on their own part, they also want to do information sharing with us. So there's going to be a free flow of exchange between the Nigerian government and the Chinese authority in the area of media.
And Solid Minerals Development Minister Dele Alake commends the $1 billion new iron ore to steel project planned for Kogi State as a breakthrough in the federal government's campaign to make local value addition the model of development in the solid minerals sector. Addressing the promoters chart and Capstone Integrated Limited of Nigeria, Sinomark HI International of China on the sidelines of the visit of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to China in Beijing, Alake pledged the cooperation of the federal government with the promoters to ensure the delivery of the project as fast as possible. He said the federal government has reversed the pit-to-port policy under which mining companies exported raw materials to extraction with local value addition. Now, in a bid to address water and electrical challenges, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has signed 2 memoranda of understanding with 2 Chinese private firms for the lightening up of the FCT using solar power and ensuring rural water supply. The signing of the document with these 2 Chinese companies in Beijing, China, is the fallout of the summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation.
Handled by the CGC group, and that has been awarded for some years, but by the grace of God they have now up to 70% completion. We believe by the grace of God by this December or thereabout they would have completed it.
The long-held animosity between traditional and orthodox medicine in Nigeria may be coming to an end. The federal government says it is taking significant steps to dismantle barriers by commercializing local herbs. This move, championed by the Nigerian Natural Medicine Development Agency, NNMDA, and unveiled by Minister of Health, Science and Technology Uche Naje in Abuja, promises to bridge the gap between traditional practices and modern healthcare.
Relying on traditional medicine, its role in healthcare is crucial. I urge the private sector to support NMDA in sustainable production through its medicinal farms.
Talking politics now, barely 11 days to the Edo governorship election, and INEC says 114 media organizations have been accredited to cover the exercise. The 114 media organizations have successfully uploaded the details of 721 personnel statement by INEC National Commissioner for Information, Sam Olumekun, assures all accredited media organizations full access to voting and collation locations, and appeals to reporters to abide by codes of professional ethics, the law and the Commission's regulation and guidelines in their reportage, and observe processes and procedures before, during and after the elections. And those are highlights of the news at this time. Good morning. Nigeria continues with Yemi and Victor after the commercial break. Please don't go away.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we know more than just a nation.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA. The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. No need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids. Milo!
Bye, Mom.
He's going to play in this weather. Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with germ defense gives you protection. Raining season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's germ defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Imagine a world where your potential isn't limited by your bank account, where your financial dreams can become reality. That world is here with the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation scheme, Credico. Credico is one of President Tinubu's initiatives designed to put the power of consumer credit in the hands of working Nigerians. Here to help you achieve your goals, whether it's providing for your family or expanding your home or business. Visit www.credico.ng today for details. This is the renewed hope.
A new edition of TV Guide is out.
This time, we got up close and personal with the transformational legislator, the Deputy President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Barrel Jibrin.
We've created a difference in terms of representation through interventions that have brought an unprecedented infrastructural development to my area.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more.
It is indeed a park of excitement as we take you through every aspect of life. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space.
TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
We must all join hands to work hard so that we build a country for our grandchildren.
My hope is that we develop as a nation where every citizen is given his due right. There is transparency, honesty, and integrity.
Put the interests of this country first and foremost. Interests of Nigeria is being one nation, one people.
The need, if I mean, to put things right, things that have gone wrong before, to try and put right, for this, for the love of country.
The race to qualify for the biggest football competition in Africa is on. The 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. 48 teams in 12 groups, with only the top 2 teams in each group qualifying for the African Cup of Nations in 2025 in Morocco. Don't miss the action, suspense and unrivaled coverage on AfroSport TV and its affiliates partners across Nigeria, starting from September 2024 to November 2024. AfroSport, your freedom of sport.
Up next is newspaper review.
All right, we got Chukwudi Okoli-Gbaja with us again this morning. Chukwudi, good to see you.
Mary, I'm fully here. You know,
Welcome.
when you say it's good to see you, I like returning. The feeling is mutual. That means I thought
you left your limbs behind. You had to emphasize that you're fully here.
I'm always
Good morning.
I'm always emphasizing. You know, those of us who are scarcely 5 feet above the sea level, we must assert ourselves somehow. Victor, you Good morning.
Good to see you.
All right, let's see what the papers have and see if there are stories that are sinking or those that are more than 5 feet, above sea level. Let's see the Daily Trust now quickly. The lead story here. The DSS releases a 0 minutes to NLC's deadline. Like that caption. The writer says operatives go after Serap directors, raid Abuja office, TUC Amnesty International, Falana others condemn act, secret police mom. That's on page 3 of the Daily Trust. You want to find out what's going on. Above that story, just below the masthead, bandits kill 7, abduct nurses, others in Kaduna, Sokoto. Not a good one, and that's on page 6. Looking at page 8, we have Tinubu's absence forces APC to postpone caucus NEC meetings. And next to that, Barao offers 70 students foreign scholarships to study artificial intelligence, others. Details of that on page 25. Let's see other stories. Below the picture story, right here, flood kills 24, destroys 22 billion naira property in Bauchi. Federal government excludes Varsity Research Institutes from TSA. And we can't stabilize Naira if smuggling continues, as according to the NSA. All of that on page 11. Below the picture story, high transport fare, students strike, others boycott schools. The writer, proprietors raise bus charges, cite petrol price hike, parents consider nearby schools for wards. And of course, some will have to stay at home. That's on page 4. Not a good one. Let's see The Nation. The Nation here says AGF 6 end to pardon for corruption convicts. The writer, Fagbemi, we need law review to stop prerogative of mercy for those jailed for graft. And just above that, we have Edo 2024. The heartbeat will beat on September 21. INEC accredits 114 media houses for coverage. 4 suspects arrested for attack on APC members. Collaboration key to transparent electoral environment. Igodalu will continue from where I stop, says Obasaki. All of that on page 5 of The Nation. Above the masthead, Labour Party withdraws 2027 automatic tickets for Obi Oti. That's on page 4. You want to see what's happening in the Labour Party. And, of course, looking at the Labour movement, this is on all the papers this morning. Ajero released on bail hours after arrest. And you have while he was arrested right here on page 4 of The Nation. Beside that, bandits abduct nurses, patients in attack on hospital. Niger tanker fire death toll rises to 59, 18 critically injured. That's on page 26 of The Nation. Finally, this morning, from the front page of The Nation, we have APC shifts NEC meeting. And, of course, Hajia Dada Binta Yaradua, truly great, says First Lady. Okay, so that's it from The Nation. Victor.
All right, let's quickly look at the Vanguard. And above the masthead, bandits kidnap nurses, patients, others in Kaduna Hospital. Page 6. Tinubu orders finance minister to exclude Varsity's research institutes from TSA. Page 9. Constitutional amendment. AGF to block presidential pardon for corrupt leaders. Page 9 as well. And above, a tiny strip above those stories, Naira depreciates to 1,660 in parallel markets as scarcity hits dealers. You can find details on page 19. And the major story here, Ajero released as outrage trails arrest. Page 5, it has several riders. NLC holds emergency NEC today. TUC, PDP, Amnesty International, UFCS, Huriwa, MWUN, NUEE, others kick. We've withdrawn our 2023 petition against NLC presidents. That's according to Air Peace. DSS action not connected to police invitation. Falano, NLC. Well, labor leaders arrest, attempt to cause anarchy, according to UAFCS. Arrest poverty, hunger, not innocent Nigerians, PDP tells Tinubu. Direct DSS to end attack against us, Serap tells President. That big story is on page 5. I think we should take it here. Chukudi, But just before you go, petrol price hike puts Nigerians healthcare professionals at risk. Petrol price puts Nigerians healthcare professionals at risk. To find out how, that story is according to the NMA, and it's on page 22.
Yeah, the last bit you read simply reminds us that an ill wind is an ill wind that blows no one any good. It's as simple as that. You don't need to expatiate. You understand? But let me quickly go to, you know, the other day we said the presidency may be initiating a lot of things that will bring about reforms in this country. But till we see a robust fight against corruption, we would seem not to have really started. The AGF, that's Latif Fawebi, is asking that the amendment of the Constitution should ban presidential pardon for corrupt leaders. And I seem to toe that line as well. Because till you fight corruption, the problem with Africa stems from three things: corruption, tribalism, and sometimes, you know, some of the facades they try to cast religion into to beguile us. That's a facade. Religion is not really dividing anybody. The real things are tribalism and corruption. So I really appreciate the move, you know, being made by the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice. It's very important.
Well, a move is as good as
its implementation.
If you don't get result from it, then it's a move that counts for nothing.
Well,
so a move is as good as its result.
Some of the richest people in the world today will tell you that they started by dreaming. From dreaming, it became ideation. From ideation, they laid out a plan. Then implementation followed after gathering enough information. So let's pay heed to the processes of starting. Start small and big. Okay? Ajero and DSS. I think only God perhaps can understand what's happening between the two parties. I don't get it anymore. He was to attend a meeting, I think in London or so. Then he gets arrested on the precincts of the airport. I don't think he's able to attend that meeting anymore. Was that the goal of the arrest? What was he arrested for this time around? But the security forces have to consider something. We don't know what they know. So you cannot say categorically that Ajero should not be arrested. We don't know what the security forces know. But we do know something. If you begin to make something begin to sound like child's plaything, you begin to lose credibility. They have to think about that. It's very important because you need them to stay credible. They are handling a very sensitive national assignment because they're keeping us safe by their actions and all that. But when you begin to see a lot of hide and seek, you begin to ask yourself, maybe there's a lot to it that meets the eye.
I was just going to say that if indeed there was something, they would have said it. Again, we cannot see what you think. We only know what you say.
We know what you express.
And then you give the man the opportunity to say, no be me, me.
We can only know and understand what you say. My dad would give me one heavy knock in those days. That's perhaps one of the reasons I didn't really get as tall as I wanted to. He would give me a heavy knock. Why? He said, you cannot get into a man's mind to know what he's thinking. You must express your feelings based on what you heard. Otherwise, you'll get into trouble.
My lecturer used to tell us in those days that the lecturer cannot score you on the basis of what he thinks you are trying to say. That he will score you on the basis of what he has said. What's on paper. But that he can understand that, he was trying to go here, he just didn't get there.
Yes.
Or he wasn't going about. No, that will score you on the basis of what you have said. Nobody will think for you.
That bit about students trekking to school.
Others boycotting school.
After 3 hours of trekking, are they not going to fall asleep when they should be receiving lectures? There's this cartoon in one of the papers. They showed us a man with a sweat-soaked shirt Say, thank God for this scarcity. Man, no, say, from Yanokpaja to Balende, no far before.
I think that's a good way to end this review.
Anyway, let's let Chukwudi go.
He trekked all his morning and
go
afternoon.
Exercise and trek home.
It's okay.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for the
This is
condign
Good
punishment.
Morning Nigeria. Our conversation begins after this break. Please stay with us.
You know that President Bola Tinubu has approved the suspension of import duties and tariffs on rice, maize, and other essential food items for the next 5 months. The President has also approved the suspension of import duties on pharmaceutical raw materials and equipment. This will help bring down the prices of food and drugs across the country. All hands are on deck to ensure that things get better for all Nigerians. This is the renewed hope.
Bye, Mom.
He's going to play in this weather? Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with germ defense gives you protection. Raining season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's germ defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
NTA Television College Jos, with a pedigree of producing indelible professionals in the media space and an affiliate of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, for the award of degree in mass communication, calls on prospective candidates to leverage on the following courses it offers for 2024-2025 academic session. BSc Mass Communication, those with minimum admissible score of 180 and above who sat for the 2024 JAMB/UTME and direct entry, while 100 to 179 minimum admissible score can apply for the National Innovation Diploma NID in Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism and Television Engineering. For more inquiries, visit our website or call 0803-383-4343. Announcer, Registrar.
The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Coming in all the way from Imo State, it's the Singleton family.
We are the Singleton family.
Not
single, we don't give person.
And all the way from Anambra State, it's the TUC family. They did not shout so. Do you want to play or do you want to pass?
Of course, I want to play.
She wants to play. Thank you very much, Kelechi. Aside the flag, name something that can be used to identify a country.
The language.
Culture.
Their president.
Their capital. Their dressing.
Their food.
Their national anthem.
Sing the Korean national anthem for me. What do you do for fun?
I actually like see movies.
Okay.
I see movies a lot and spending time talking to my husband. Recently,
she's so cute. That's not now. Look at that camera. I say something romantic to your sweetheart.
Hey, babes. I just want you to know that these 6 months of our life together has been the best months of my life. And I look forward to spending forever with you.
Name a control command computer users frequently make use of.
Monitor. Enter. Control V.
Control C, Control V. Survey says...
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago,
the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country that, God has kept, together as one indivisible entity.
All right, it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation, which borders on the 2024 Focac Summit, takeaways for Nigeria. Let's quickly see this background report put together by our correspondent, Ibrahim Dan Hamidou.
President Tinubu made an impressive debut on the global stage at the 2024 Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit, leaving a lasting impression. He reinforced Nigeria's commitment to strengthening ties with China and Africa, highlighting the mutual benefits and cooperation that come with it.
This relationship has transcended continents, challenges, and become a true testament to the power of mutual respect and cooperation.
Nigeria is also seeking collaboration with China in critical areas like transportation, energy, and telecommunications to boost infrastructure development.
We share through high-level engagement, strategic agreement, and a shared vision of growth. We gather to reflect on the progress we've made and chart the course for even greater achievements.
Addressing concerns about Nigeria's debt burden, President Tinubu assured responsible management and sought for more concessional terms.
China has consistently demonstrated its commitment to Africa, not only through financial and developmental support, but also through cultural exchanges that bring our people closer and closer together.
Climate change and African unity were also top of mind for President Tinubu, who urged collective action and cooperation for sustainable development.
Trade between Africa and China has grown exponentially, reaching an estimated $280 billion US.
Join us as we discuss the takeaways from President Tinubu's participation in the 2024 Focac Summit in Beijing, China. Our guests will dive into the implications of his approach and what it means for Nigeria and the African continent.
Ibrahim Dan Hamidou, thank you very much for that background report. And to begin our conversation on the just concluded Focac, let me start by introducing here in the studio Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning. Senator Bagudu represented Kebbi Central Senatorial District in the 7th Assembly and served as Governor of Kebbi State from 2015 to 2023. We would like to also appreciate that the Honorable Minister has just arrived from China this morning and still found time to join us here. We thank you very much. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
All right. Also joining us for the conversation, we have with us right here in the studio Professor Sharif Gali Ibrahim, Head of Department, Political Science and International Relations, University of Abuja, and Director of Contemporary China-Africa Research in Nigeria. Many thanks for joining us, Prof.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. And we also have with us Dr. Adoyi Matthew Omale, an international relations expert. Many thanks for joining us, Doctor.
Good morning, and I'm happy to be here. All right, let's begin. Honorable Minister, in this room, in this studio, you are the only one who was in China. So give us a sense of the key outcomes of the Focac Summit and what this means for Nigeria in terms of economic development goals.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you to my co-panelists for finding time to attend this. The visit to China by President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was a twofold visit. There was an official visit to China, as well as attending the Forum for Cooperation between Africa and China. Mr. President and his entourage, which include state governors, because Nigeria being a federation, the president have always appreciated the need to demonstrate that to the world and to demonstrate that the uniqueness of our federalism, and therefore attending events or participating with the subnationals. So Mr. President was received by the Chinese president in the state official visit, of which I was privileged to be among the entourage, as well as Mr. President was hosted to a luncheon by the Chinese premier. So these are very significant events, as well as Mr. President witnessed the signing of a number of agreements. Himself and the Chinese president witnessed the signing of a number of agreements led by the foreign minister, but of which our ministry or myself was represented Nigeria in signing 5 of those agreements that were signed. And these were agreements to deal with further cooperation on the what is known as Silk Road Economic Belt Initiative and the 21st Century Maritime. This is a cooperation agreement between the two countries to deepen relationship and covering about 20 projects and about 35 cooperation areas ranging from education, science and technology, cultural exchanges, health, as well as another agreement that is a 3-year cooperation agreement, which again was signed by myself on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, by the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Minister Shanje, Minister in charge of the National Development and Reform Commission of China, which is a 3-year agreement which is intended to push that within the next 3 years we should do so many things that are visible and remarkable, as well as another agreement yet again signed by the two of us covering a shared understanding of economic development, so that we learn from each other. We have joint seminars, as well as 2 other agreements with the China International Development Cooperation Agency, which is on fostering a common understanding of development initiative around the world, that the China and Nigeria foster a common understanding which includes or prioritize lifting people out of poverty, sharing prosperity across the globe, as well as an agreement specifically on the development of human resources. This is in addition to the other agreements, like I said, that have been signed covering media, of which NTA is had a prominent mention, peaceful use of nuclear energy, and agreement that have been signed by our subnationals to foster infrastructure development. The significance of this state official visit that this further underscores the leadership that is being provided by President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to engage with the world, to ensure that we build relationship, we build appreciation, so that we can do more. It's not that our leaders have not interacted. They have done well before. They have other leaders have interacted with the world before, but the world is ever changing. So what was done yesterday is different from what is done today. We need to share experience. We need to be out there. And the Chinese have respected Nigeria's growth opportunities and have been involved with the Nigerian economy, and it's good for His Excellency that Mr. President also showed appreciation to the Chinese state and companies and investors that have put faith with our country and the need to do more. Equally, Mr. President attended the Forum for Cooperation, which is a forum between African countries and China. It's significant, and I'm sure maybe the professors might say better. There has been an evolution of many forums where African countries as a united body are interacting with some countries in the world. Late last year, we were in Saudi Arabia for a similar forum between African countries. And this is a significant evolution because, as we now very well know, that some of the challenges we share are common, or rather they require common approach. For example, the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, most of sub-Saharan Africa is facing one challenge or the other, either security, terrorism, economic growth challenges, access to capital, lifting people out of poverty, climate change issues. So that African leaders have come together to forge unity in interacting with the world at some forums and advancing multilateralism, or creating a shared vision in which multilateralism should be delivered, particularly to prioritize those challenges that we believe should be the priority of the world, rather than maybe what the Northern Hemisphere thinks should be priority. So this is an evolution, and Mr. President participated. His participation was appreciated both by the Chinese leadership and other of his colleagues in Africa. And they draw attention that for us in the global south, meaning developing world, development should take priority. Lifting people out of poverty, sharing global prosperity, equitable access to financial resources around the world, the redesign of global institutions so that they can continue to work better and deliver prosperity, cooperation in the fight against terrorism and those things that are bedeviling most of the world and disproportionately burdening our African countries, as well as Mr. President's support to subnational governors of the different states when they sign an agreement to give assurance to companies and investors that the renewed hope agenda is a strategy that ensures that gives prioritization to giving protection to investment and rule of law.
All right, many thanks, Honorable Minister, for that background as regards what transpired in China. Very detailed, but I'd like you to mention one or two infrastructure projects you think Nigeria would benefit as a result of this interaction with China, some days ago. And I would like you to also speak around some of the concerns of some of the African leaders that attended Focac. For example, the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, did draw the attention of the Chinese to the long-standing trading balance, and asking China to do more of imports of agricultural products from South Africa and all of that, and then also see that there's more value-added exports in South Africa. Did Nigeria look at all of this, and what is the takeaway in that regard?
Well, on infrastructure projects, there are a number of infrastructure projects that Nigeria have engaged China with already ongoing, some of them in seaport development, where even the Lekki Deep Seaport, where a Chinese company is investing, rail projects, infrastructure, road projects, and they featured prominently Mambila hydro electric power project. And like I said, additionally, Mr. President expressed interest in ensuring that we cooperate on the peaceful use of nuclear energy so that we can so there was the cooperation agreements, like I said, include 19 projects expressly mentioned, which is these are projects in infrastructure to ensure that we complete the rail projects that Chinese companies are doing in Nigeria with the support of the Chinese state, particularly the Chinese state banks, as well as the deep sea project, the energy projects, and in addition, ensuring, like you rightly said, that Nigeria does better in trade with China. It's particularly noteworthy that China imports about $2 trillion worth of goods from around the world. Just in agriculture, from one country, agriculture from Brazil, China imports about 150 billion US dollar worth of per annum. So this has been prominently discussed and is within the scope of the cooperation agreement. How can Nigeria do better? How can we ensure that we enter into long-term uptake agreements so that we will compete with those other countries in exporting more to China? China also appreciates that for all to do well, trade needs to be balanced. So we need to grow. Apart from growing, it should also be balanced based on they buy from us, we buy from them, or when we take their investment. So that is very, very clearly stated. But these things require a lot of work. The agreements have been signed. So the president has left us in no doubt that he expects us to work hard to ensure that Nigeria maximize the benefit by mobilizing more investment and utilizing more that investment to expand our domestic production and domestic processing so that we can also export more to China. We have spoken explicitly on improving agricultural export. China imports soya beans, ethanol from cassava, from sugarcane. So these are all things that not only can we produce, we can also produce, process, and export to China. Solid minerals, the quest for more solid minerals gives us opportunity. Even gas and methanol. So these are all areas that we can mobilize and do more with China, and while also so as to concern that you said the South African president, yes, trade is an evolutionary issue, and especially in a world that is ever changing. What was there yesterday, we Africans or African countries or even countries in the global south, and I've said some of it earlier, have been disappointed in the way the rules of the game has been changing, because at one time there was talk of globalization, and African countries in particular have been very, very supportive of measures to globalize the world, to participate into multilateral institutions. But we have seen the rise of protectionism in countries that we felt should lead opening of borders. We have seen right-wing movements that are even limiting labor mobility around the world, closing their borders or shut. So that is why it is important to attend to forums or to like minds where a common understanding of what development means is shared, so that we can do better together, we can advance trade, we can ensure that we have more access to capital. Most of the challenges that African countries are facing are in a way function of historic underinvestment, because our access to capital is limited. It's very easy for a country with 10 million people, with 20 million people to access 200 billion if it is in the northern hemisphere. It's very difficult for Nigeria with 200 million people to mobilize the same amount of money for the same tenure or for the same pricing. But cooperation platforms like this, where we share experience, we learn from people who have done well also, because part of the learning curve is that China have done well in being able to mobilize capital to fund that. What have they done? What are those choices that they have made? Can we make them? What are the costs of making those choices? And Mr. President, as part of the engagement, actually even engaged with the Nigerian diaspora, where he told them, you are here, you have witnessed transformation, you have witnessed the sacrifices, you have witnessed those things that we wish we will have at home. So also share the experience so that our country and men and women can unify and support measures that, though may involve short-term trade-offs, but in the long run will provide us the ability to achieve the Nigeria of our dreams.
All right, Honorable Minister, thank you very much. And just before we give you a breather, China has pledged additional $50 billion spread across 3 years. Can you help us unbundle this? What's in the package? And how does Nigeria, what are the priorities of Nigeria in all of this? How do you intend to make the most of it?
That's why I said the good starting point is that we have cooperation agreements that have been signed at the highest level. So those, it's not exclusive to Nigeria. They have signed maybe similar or same, but it's our ability to appreciate the importance of this. It's our ability to utilize the leadership that is provided by our president to say, look, I'm willing to even go there myself, so that we work hard on it. The $50 billion for African countries is small, but that's just a demonstration of more support. What China, like many other countries, but what China represent for us is the ability to mobilize much more than that. Nigeria, we want their investors to come. We want Nigeria have, I believe, and maybe the professors can say it better, have one of the strongest absorptive capacity in the world, meaning our ability to absorb investment, given our size, given our stages of development, given the enthusiasm, the energy. One thing we share with the Chinese is that our people are hardworking. They are in farms at early as 4 a.m. They are by the roadside baking akra or doing something as early as 4 a.m. They are in fishing ground. And they are willing. So with opportunities like this, if we mobilize capital in hundreds of billions, get irrigation infrastructure, get energy right and abundant and cheaper competitively, get the industrial sector functioning well, we will produce much more and sell much more to the world. So it's comforting that they offered 50 billion, but that's not what we are looking for China. What is provided in the agreement are avenues where we can do much more than that cooperatively.
Honorable Minister, would allow you breathe, for a while. Let's get to our other guests that are here with us. Professor Sharif Ghali Ibrahim, I'd like to get to you now. Of course, you've listened to the Honorable Minister speak about, the gains from this cooperation with China. And I'm sure you have been following Focac since 2000 when it began, and all that China plans to do with Africa. I'd like you to take off from the point of critics as regards China-Africa relations. Some say that it is a form of neo-colonialism instead of cooperation. What's your take?
I can actually counter that particular argument to say that that's a misconception. It is also a misnomer. Why? Because for you to engage in a neo-colonial expansionism, then you should have actually engaged in a colonial domination first, because neo-colonialism is a kind of extension of colonialism. And China was a victim of Japanese imperialist domination. If I may, colonialism, China never scrambled, for Africa to dominate any entity, no nation on earth, but rather been a victim. So China did not participate in the first industrial revolution. It was nowhere when the Europeans first industrialized. But China, has been able to catch up. And after the Second World War, the notion of development cooperation emerged, meaning that humanity cannot do in isolation. There has to be an impetus for states and nations to come together, because I sell to you what you need, what you do not produce. I also get what I do not have, what I cannot produce from you. So this kind of interplay is actually necessary for states to actually survive. So China is not carrying out any form of neo-colonial domination, in the world or Africa. But what is inherent in the survivability of states and nations is that we have great powers. Definitely those states with potential resources, as well as human capacity, that have been able to harness such resources, galvanize this particular quality labor force to produce, to industrialize, to grow and develop, states are structurally not equal, in terms of economic power, military might, level of industrialization, and in all ramifications. So, but China has been able to revolutionize politically and economically. In the 50s and 60s, people in Beijing were almost wearing same kind of clothes. You hardly see movement of vehicles, in the street of Beijing. But it came to the point that the Chinese discovered what was actually indispensable for them was reform and opening up. From a communist society under Chairman Mao, mistakes have been made that led to the death of so many people, in China. So during the time of Deng Xiaoping, he believed that what China needed to do was to open up its economy. That was the first major reform that had actually opened up China, and the Chinese are actually reaping from this particular benefit of opening up. Then it continued with the three represent the scientific outlook, as well as Xi Jinping's principle of building a socialist society with Chinese characteristics. So this has been peculiar. That actually brought out China into the limelight. So growth is actually natural. A state could actually grow and outweigh or outstrip other states depending on the level of competitiveness, as well as investment in human resources, as well as the ambience of resource harnessing in that particular entity. So if you look at this critically, empires, as I always argue, that there are times that empires rise and empires decline. I always give this particular example. Where is British Empire today? Why is Assyrian Empire? Why is Ottoman Empire? So definitely the American Empire will not last forever. So with the decline of American Empire, which imminently, all these particular signs are imminent, even Jimmy Carter, the former president of the United States of America, once said that the rise of China is inevitable. because it utilizes the population, bringing out more than 800 million people out of poverty. This is, we cannot say a miracle, for China, because the Chinese see that nothing is impossible to achieve. But to us, we could say this is a miracle. So therefore, they have been able to galvanize all their resources, both human and natural, to reach where they are. And China has learned from the mistakes of the West. And it doesn't want to actually replicate such mistakes committed by the West. That is why its new form of diplomacy is completely different from that carried out by the United States of America and the Western states. How is it different? China seeks sovereign equality, as Honorable Minister mentioned. Sovereign equality, respect, mutual respect, and non-interference in the affairs of independent state. So you can see, and China celebrates 70 years of these particular principles of peace, 5 principles of peace: amity, sincerity, and the rest. So China will come, sit down with you, dialogue, negotiate, then finally sign agreement, just like we saw in Beijing. The Honorable Minister said he was engaged in signing different agreements with China. So how different is this from the West? Imposition. We impose on you our values. If you don't accept what we have, if you don't accept what we want, we impose sanctions on you. Why? Because your own system is inimical to ours. So what you need to do is to follow ours. China has learned from that. It's not imposing no one to follow its suit. Even the culture, if you like, you study, but China is not imposing its own culture on you. It's not imposing any form of economic or agreement for you to sign, but rather it is based on mutual respect, sincerity of purpose, amity, mutual benefit, and win-win cooperation. That is why China stands out. And African leaders are not stupid to have actually, very sorry to have made use of this particular language. They know what they do, and they understand the nuances of their diplomatic and economic engagement with China. Because China is actually, that is why the theme for this year's Focac summit was jointly advancing modernization and building a China-Africa community with a shared future in a new era. And what is that new era? It is this particular turbulent era where we see balance of power, balkanization and polarization of the global system into blocks. We do not accept and agree that our strength is actually abating within the global system, but we are trying to create more disharmony and chaos within the international system. If naturally you see that your economy is declining, and there are other states whose economy are actually rising, seek for healthy competition as well as cooperation, but do not support war and conflict. That is why China is advocating in the Beijing Declaration that, look, we agree to jointly build a shared community in China-Africa cooperation. This apart, to dwell on the Global Development Initiative, that Africa and other developing nations should also be included in the developmental project of the international system. Then this apart, the Global Security Initiative. We should jointly work together to securitize our borders, to securitize our entities, and what again? Global Civilization Initiative. We should respect each other's civilization. We should respect each other's culture. We do not see any person's or other person's culture as being inferior to ours. So if we do this, we are going to build a kind of harmonious international system that will be better for humanity, and nobody will actually feel isolated. This is the kind of collective responsibility and new style of global governance that actually China is actually holding. If you visit China and listen to the leadership of China, if you have conscience, your mind and heart will be touched. The Honorable Minister will think I'm speaking his mind when he was in China. Sometimes you even shed tears. The nature of commitment. You ask, are these human beings? When President Ahmed Bola Tinubu talked about the reforms he saw, the infrastructure he saw, discourse he saw, then he made the inference that reform is inevitable. And that is why in Nigeria, reforms have to be carried out. But what I will try to tell Mr. President is that the nature of reforms as carried out by China are somehow different from the reforms we carried out here. All reforms you see in China, just like in the speech of President Xi Jinping, is that we must make sure that we make the people happy. We also ensure the security of the people. So the reforms, if you go by the four comprehensives as enunciated by President Xi Jinping, one is prosperity, that we make China a prosperous society, one. Then secondly, we deepen reform, we deepen rule of law in our society. Then we also consolidate party discipline. These are the things that we need to learn. Okay. We replicate in our society for reform to actually manifest itself as fruitful.
We'll have to hold you on there. You've talked a lot. I mean, if we give you the whole of the program, I'm sure it's what you do, China-Nigeria relations. I'm sure you can exhaust the entirety of it. But I appreciate your contribution so far. And Dr. Omale, you've had the privilege of listening to the minister and then listening to Prof.
Yeah.
What indeed does Nigeria have to learn from China?
Thank you very much. Nigeria has a lot to learn. But before I answer your question, I want to make one or two clarifications. You see, the international system is a very complex arena. And to my mind, this type of forum, Focac forum, we have the African-Russia forum, we have the US, Africa, and so there's a scramble for Africa. We are the beautiful bride. Why are we the beautiful bride? We have the resources. God has given us, if it is lithium, if it is diamond, so the great powers are scrambling for these very, very important resources. And that is why most of them are organizing for a summit of this nature to be able to woo Africa onto their side. Don't forget that in the United Nations General Assembly, Africa have a significant, the 54 countries of Africa, they have a significant voice at the level of the United Nations. And China will want to woo Africa to its side. And it has been doing a lot. In the last couple of decades, China has invested almost 200 billion in African economy. And just like the Honorable Minister said, another 50 billion in the next 3 years. China, they are not foolish. I don't want to agree that it is issue of neocolonialism or globalization as, it's a strategic engagement, diplomatic engagement by the Chinese to also further their nest, to also expand their economy. Don't forget that combination of Africa and China is almost 3 billion people. Yeah. China has about 1.4 billion. Africa has about 1.5. So it is going to be a huge, and that is why the theme, as according to Professor Gali, he said, look, joining hands for modernization and having a shared community. And it is a strategic way that China feels that it has to engage with the global south, a critical component of the international community. So I don't want to say, but why my joy is that it provides a credible alternative to the Bretton Woods institution. And that is where China is coming in to create what the Bretton Woods institution has done. We are getting loans at very, very reduced rates. African countries are getting investments at very, very reduced terms. And that is very instructive. Then secondly, if you look at most of the decisions or most of the issues that are being discussed at the Focac. For example, let me take the issue of renewable energy, for example. China has done a lot, and I was happy that our president, in one of the programs, he visited the Huawei industry. Huawei has invested significantly in the Nigerian economy, especially in telecommunications and others. And as the minister has said, the issue of power is one of the critical problems we have in the country today. And with this type of forum and with the president engaging with China, especially to have a peaceful use of nuclear technology, that is very, very important. If we can have it, I believe that we'll be able to solve our power problems. So we have a lot, just like you have asked me, we have a lot to benefit from this relationship. But that is not to say that we will jettison our relationship with the West completely. China's investment in Africa has surpassed Western investment in the last 20 to 30 years. So, so China, and you see, like Prof has said, this relationship between Africa and China, the way it is going, it is adding a lot of value to the Chinese economy. And we Africans too, we have been benefit tremendously. I must confess. Look at our international airport. Look at our railway system. Look at so many things, just like the minister has mentioned, that Nigeria has benefited from China. But you pose a question to Professor Gali, very interesting question. What is the impact of this investment for our future? And that is the question we academics and everybody is looking at. China has commenced in seizing aircraft. They are commenced. I learned that they seized a police station somewhere in Zimbabwe some years ago and so on. So I think the fear that most Africa or most countries of the South are having is that we don't know how China is going to react if we default in the payment of some of these loans. And I know that the Chinese could also be very shrewd when it comes to business, from what we have heard and their activities domestically. The other day we appeared on a program and I was talking about the impact of, yes, in as much as they are bringing in investment, we also know that locally some of the mining activities are being done illegally by Chinese companies. So that is one of the challenges with this relationship. And sometimes our even domestic workers complain about maltreatment by Chinese companies. So all these pose a serious challenge to these relationships and make people to begin to think whether China involvement in Africa is really for development or whether they have an agenda to recolonize. That I come back to that point because actually it is the activities of indigenous Chinese companies. It is the activities of the pursuit of Chinese interest that is making some people to feel, oh, what is really their agenda? Do they want to displace the West so that they can reinvent themselves?
But is that on China though? Because if you have a system, if you can't go to China and do certain things, why should China come to Africa and do those things? Is it a failure of China or failure of the African systems?
No.
Failure to maintain your own laws, to say this is what we can do, this is what we can take. I mean, agreements are signed. Have they gone against the agreements that they have signed?
Well, going against the agreement, I will not say they have gone against the agreement, but you see, in implementation of agreements, there could always be loopholes that could be exploited. And China being, well, you know, our relationship with China is not on equal basis. They certainly are the highest partner in the relationship. Because I cannot see...
Because you don't produce.
Yes, because they are a senior partner. But I like what our president has told them. What some of the African presidents are saying is that, yes, we can trade with you. You can come and take our raw materials. But we would like a situation whereby we can process these raw materials before it is exported. So, for example, if you want our gold or you want our lithium, you should be able to establish a company that processes it there so that it gives employment to our people. And then in the past, let me also be very frank, in the past, even in road construction, Chinese people will come until Africans begin to complain. They will bring their engineers, they will bring their artisans, they will bring their technicians, denying our own engineers, yes, the luxury of employing them. And until people begin to complain and countries begin, for now they have reduced that. So this type of relationship is what
needs to be checked.
Yes, that needs to be checked. In as much as we desire their investment, in as much as we desire our collaboration, we must also be on our guards. We must also be on our guards. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. O'Malley. You have made a valid point, and I'm sure that the Honourable Minister for Budget and Economic Planning will respond to that. But I have a question as regards what Dr. O'Malley has said. He talked about the fact that if we're unable to pay this loan, you know, what could China do? But I would like to ask first, is there a figure as to how much Nigeria owes China at the moment? How much they have loaned us so far? And is there a way, are we tracking how these monies are being spent? You know, are they really being spent for the projects, you know, they have been borrowed for? Is there a track on that to ensure that, okay, if so and so money was gotten for railway, that's what it's being used for? Because some critics of this whole relationship is that it's also a pipe for corruption to thrive. So I want you to speak to Nigerians in that regard. How much do we owe China at the moment? What projects, are the projects that are being constructed or whatever it is that's being done with this loan, are they being tracked to ensure that, you know, they're actually being done and done satisfactorily? And what is the plan to repay the loan?
We have commitments with China on various projects, some rail, some hydro, which is about $10 billion. And some of it has been drawn down upon, some of it we have not yet paid our own counterpart funding. But that's I think, is a secondary issue. Relationship between countries, as the professors and the experts have said, is always evolutionary, and you learn either from the experience of other countries in those relationships, or you learn from your own mistakes, because enforcement of contract on equal bargaining power, they are all things that speak to your own ability to appreciate what you want out of a relationship and how do you go about it. Luckily, we have a very, very a president who is not only bold and daring, but he's also a very seasoned negotiator. He has done it as a state governor. He has done it elsewhere, and we believe that in our engagement with all countries in the world, not just China, we have a leader who will be able to be very assertive. We are very confident in our abilities. We are confident in our prospects that we will negotiate in a way that Nigeria will benefit. We wish other countries, that's the whole idea. We want a mutual beneficial relationship. So the experiences of the past and the experiences of the other countries and the cooperation agreements that we sign and the experiences that are even around this room. We have China experts in Nigeria who can tell us. China also want to deliver continued prosperity. They don't want to support. They are not where they want to be. Much as we desire, maybe we desire it more. The urgency on us is more. If maybe we are negotiating with them in 1980, maybe we are closer to parity than we are now. So we are very clear about what the opportunities are, and we are very clear about what the experiences are. We don't want $10 billion. We want hundreds of billions of dollars. That is what our population, and we can mobilize it. It can provide return, and we can pay not only China, from all other parts of the world. Like I said earlier, China is importing maybe about $2 trillion worth of goods from around the world. So we want to be able to provide Nigeria, when I say we, not Africa, we should be able to provide 10% of that, so that our trade volume will grow to 200 billion with them, meaning they invest in us, we invest in them. That's the kind of aspiration that we have. And when we study the way they relate with other countries, example Brazil, we see that we can do much more. That meaning we can enter into long-term contracts. We can mobilize domestic production that will provide avenue for a win-win situation. So I'm not afraid, because there are experiences in the past, or with other countries, or with our country, that we can use to ensure that whatever agreement, whatever relationship we enter is mutually beneficial. That is not to say that no matter, even in the best form of an investment, there are risks that you may not be able. The world is changing. The world is changing. I can borrow $10 billion and invest in a world that technology will change something. Today, artificial intelligence is changing the way the common example, some of us were accustomed to typewriters. So if I was building a $10 billion investment in typewriters and the world has moved on to computers, maybe that's an unforeseen risk. But again, Professor have highlighted it. The Chinese, you read the conviction of people. What do they also believe? The Chinese president has been very clear the kind of China they want to build. China that want to share with the world, want shared prosperity for all. And it's almost an article of party policy. So, but that does not mean I should not do my homework, because even if they mean that, my understanding might differ from there. And therefore, that's where my own respecting my own resources, what intellectual asset do I have to support government in this relationship so that we get the most optimal outcome. We have a president who is open to that, who is encouraging us to do that. My ministry, that's what we do. I was looking for Chinese experts we didn't presume as a ministry that we have the answers. We are looking for people who can enrich our understanding, who can read the agreements and share with us how we can do better with them. And that's our mandate, and we'll continue to do so.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Let me quickly get back to Professor Gali. You know, earlier you said China is building a socialist economy with Chinese characteristics. Can we learn this from China? Can we, even in our own relationship, whether with the West or with China, build an economy that has our best interests, that has our own characteristics? For instance, China has a robust anti-corruption campaign. A cousin of mine who did his PhD in China once told me that a man was tracked down. He had corruptly enriched himself. And the moment they were swooping on him, he took his own life because he knew what was to come. So you can imagine a system where he preferred to die than wait for the consequences of his action. Can we start from here? Because corruption is one area that a lot of people, continue to say is the biggest challenge that Nigeria has.
You are right. Around March this year, we were invited to Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, by the Institute for African Studies of Georgia Normal University. And the major aim of our being in Dar es Salaam was to come up with ideas which could serve as a prelude to this particular Focac. And we went there, we came up with the Dar es Salaam Consensus. And from Nigeria, I looked at the Washington Consensus, I looked at the Beijing Consensus. Then I came up with China-Africa Consensus. And what are those things? These are variables that both Africa, Nigeria and China agree to actually work together to achieve. Just like what the minister said, we have everything in Nigeria. But we could build whatever we so wish to build together with China, but corruption will destroy it at a glance. So that is why we have the potentials to give Africa the 50 billion that China is offering. Why? Because deal with oil theft in Nigeria. Deal with other peoples coming to Nigeria, just as what we saw in Democratic Republic of Congo. People come to our society, mine our mineral resources, and even the government does not monitor that. That has caused insecurity, terrorism on us. We need to deal with that. We need to own our resources. We have a quantum of resources beneath the soil, but we do not own it. Why? Because others are tapping from these particular resources. In fact, it has even become a curse on us, not a blessing, because our population is reducing. Terrorism is on the increase. People are dying every day because of the natural resources we have, because of our failure to own the resources. Securitize these particular borders for us to be able to harness these particular resources. You fight corruption. That is why President Xi Jinping, in his reform policy, there is what? Party discipline. From local government to federal government, people are corrupt. Some people even say we are fantastically corrupt. No doubt, everybody knows this in the world. And people are even shamefully coming out to say that they will make use of 1.2 billion to repair 20-something boreholes, and as a governor. And we as Nigerians, we listen to this. There is no even protest in the state on this particular, when you say you represent the people of this particular state judiciously. So we have everything. 50, in Morocco 2019, the Amadeus Institute, how to connect the entire continent of Africa with electricity, with power. How much were they looking for? The money estimated, the billions of dollars. Nigeria alone could have done that particular project. But yet, Nigeria, we cannot even power the country. So these are some of the challenges we are facing. We have the resources, we have the potentials, we have everything. We don't even need to accept China loan.
We cannot loan.
But we have not been able to take care of ourselves because of our selfish interests, because of our failure to administer, to coordinate, to organize. These are some of the things. And those things, and what China is saying is that we know there is infrastructure deficit. The Honorable Minister said the $50 billion given to us is financial support, and in addition, military support, because we have challenge in that, to consolidate our security. Then additional 360 billion renminbi, yuan. And what is that for? And that is to support the 10 action plan. The 10 action plan, civilization, health, trade prosperity, peoples to peoples exchange, common security, development cooperation, agriculture, and the rest of them, 260 billion. Then there is another $280 million to support modernization of Africa, which Nigeria, if we're able to harness our resources, judiciously, we should have gone beyond that and even aid other African countries, in achieving their realities.
Thank you very much, Professor Ibrahim. Of course, what you have said, resonates in different quarters, about how Nigeria, should be placed and what should have achieved at this point. But let's quickly take a break. When we come back from this break, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us.
Cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Relief is coming. More wages, reduced costs. Nigeria's national minimum wage is now 70,000 naira and it will be reviewed every 3 years. The federal government will commence immediate implementation and state governments are being encouraged to follow suit.
With the presidential CNG initiative, transport costs are coming down. Are you a car owner or a transporter? Visit www.pci.gov.ng to find out how you can benefit from switching to CNG. This is the renewed hope.
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, woman?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever. The story of our lives.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Our guests are still very much with us, and of course we're discussing the 2024 Focac Summit and takeaways for Nigeria. I'd like to get to, Dr. Omale, and like to hear his thoughts about what Prof said and what the Honorable Minister, said. The Honorable Minister has said, well, Nigeria is willing to take more loans, even not from China, from other parts of the world, and then we are able to pay. But Professor Gali Ibrahim says Nigeria shouldn't even be on that table, asking for loans, looking at natural resources and all of that it has as a nation, and if we can throw away corruption. So I'd like to hear your reaction to that. And also, I want you to speak to even the behavior of China. This year, China is pledging $50 billion, which of course is better than what they pledged in 2021, which was $40 billion. But of course, we know that in 2015 and in 2018, they pledged $60 billion. So this trend, what does it say?
Well, what my initial reaction to that is that we have to be very careful. You see, borrowing is good. It's not as if borrowing is not bad. You can borrow to solve particular issues and get results. The problem, just like Prof has said, is the money we are borrowing, how are we utilizing it? Are we effectively applying these resources? I know of the project like Ajokuta, which has been there since 1980, and we are not seeing anything. Every time money is thrown into it, day in, day out, successive regime, and nothing comes out. Now, we don't want that kind of thing. And then even the money China is bringing in some of the projects, for example, the railway remodernization. Has it been able to pay the loan in the last 2, 3, 4 years that this project has been on stream? Has it been able to pay for the loan itself? That is one question that a lot of people will be asking. Some of the ports that are being modernized, the money being generated, is it being used to service these loans? Or so how are we, what templates have we put on ground to ensure that this debt, these loans that we are receiving, how effectively are we managing it? How are we repaying this loan? Do we have mechanisms to check that the loans are properly applied? That is where I tend to agree with Professor Sherif. You see, corruption is a very serious matter. And it pains me that even those that have been convicted, are given very slap on the wrist. Somebody will be accused of taking 10 billion, 20 billion, and then they will go to court. And that is where our judiciary comes in. And they go to court, and then they say the person should do either plea bargain or some funny things, and then the person is set free. So we need to take serious measures to ensure that our resources are effectively managed. The federal government has been trying. You cannot throw the baby and the bathwater. Most of the corruption issues are handled more at the federal level, even the FCC. But when you go to the subnationals, local government, I was a former local government chairman, so I know what I'm talking about. States, there are no mechanisms at all. It's only at the federal level, yes, to some certain level, EFCC, ICPC, and some other things. But what at the state level? I know that Kano State has something like an anti-corruption body, but they have effectively not been able to even take off. Many of the states are there without any mechanism to check corruption. So we have to learn from China. One of the things that I feel we can learn from China is how they have been able to organize their society. Culture is a very dynamic thing. The issue of anti-corruption has permeated the Chinese society. It's not just a paperwork or a paper thing. From kindergarten.
Has become characteristic.
Yes. From kindergarten, they have been able to sensitize people. They have been able to put religion at the back. You see, one of the problems with our society here is that even religious houses are not immune to these things. Virtually every strata of our society. So it's not just government alone that when people talk of corruption, they think that it is just a government. You know, it's endemic. And if you look at the Chinese society, all aspects of their national life, everything is done according to specifications. And you see, that is what I think we should copy from them. And we should have to start. We have been doing our best in the past, but we need more national reorientation. Especially, we start from the grassroots. On the issue of how do we manage the investments that are coming in? Yes, foreign direct investment is very, very necessary for any economy, especially a developing economy like ours. But when this foreign investment comes, there have to be mechanisms to monitor the activities of these foreign investments that are coming, especially now that we are talking about climate change and its impact on society. One of the things that we discovered that encouraged some of these Chinese companies and some of these foreign companies to come here is the ability to maximize their profits. Because most times when they come in, the institutional mechanism to regulate their activity is very, very weak. So we need to strengthen the regulatory activity to ensure that as they are coming in, they cannot undermine our own national security and our own national economy. And that is what is lacking. And that is what we can copy from China. If they come here to do what they are doing and to sustain our own domestic law, something that if we go there we cannot do, then it is not fair to us. So any company that is coming has to be strictly regulated Sometimes they say, okay, if you are bringing in a foreign expatriate, you have to follow this procedure, register them, make sure they get all the necessary paperwork and so on. But we discovered that a lot of Chinese just come in and then participate in our economy without the necessary regulation. And that is what I think is bad with our relationship with China.
Perhaps because we allow the loopholes that are exploited.
Yes.
If we plug all loopholes, I'm sure that they won't have any to
Yes.
exploit. So it is not on China, but on Nigeria to do these things. But thank you very much.
And it's not just only for
Dr.
China.
Mali.
It's not only for China. Look at the issue of gas flaring in the Niger Delta, for example, where foreign companies come, they mine our oil, and then they still flare the gas. Something that would have contributed significantly to our economy. So it's not just only China.
In all areas of our economic
Yes,
life.
yes.
Honorable Minister, as we gradually wind up this conversation, how has this Focac impacted our developmental thinking? You know, has our priorities changed in terms of development? What are our priorities going forward, developmental priorities?
Thank you. Just before answering priorities, I just want to come back to this issue of loans. You know, China that we visited, and our experts here more than I know that we today celebrate. They took choices decades ago that were painful to their citizens, but with the firm belief that those painful choices will lead to a greater future. When they were pursuing, for example, in economics, it's called an export-led developmental strategy. We were pursuing an import-led. Because of that, they were able to sell to the world. They are able to participate in the economies of other countries. And they borrowed a lot to do that. Today, the municipal debt by subnationals of China is anywhere between 13 to 15 trillion. 1% of that is 150 billion, which is more than Nigeria's foreign debt. So they also took choices to do that, but they strengthened their legal system to punish wrongdoing. They didn't usually. That's part of the learning, part of what the professor explained. Part of the relationship is to enhance people-to-people exchange so that we can learn more, we can appreciate more. Part of the agreement is a media exchange. Media has a role in exposing corruption. And so it is also is a totality of society approach. But we need, from where I sit, I must emphasize at all times that we need more resources. Our federal budget plus the budget of subnational is too little to fund all the our developmental aspirations. And luckily it has been done even in Nigeria. Today, one of the things we are celebrating is Dangote refinery. Last year, there is a piece I saw where Dangote was quoted as saying that refinery was the 18-year dream of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because somehow the Lagos he led was able to vision the future and support an entrepreneur with land mass 7 times the size of Victoria Island, which is a very profound step. We have seen Eco Atlantic, where a bar beach that was the source of flooding to areas around it, as far as Ikoyi, has been transformed into a valuable real estate, and this has been done privately. So if we are able to support more and private, today we want first-class universities, we want first-class hospitals, we want first-class roads, we want every Nigerian community wants to. The current level of public resources available to government is unable to do that. So we certainly need more, not necessarily from China, but this is a discussion we should encourage. That does not mean we must be very harsh on wrongdoing that is taken away from our collective dream. Collective dream. So that's my view on that. Engagement with countries, especially countries that have transited from where we were a few decades ago, that many of our academics, many of our intellectual resources, or even the populace can relate to, enables us maybe to do a quantum leap, because it provides support for the renewed hope agenda or other measures without playing blame game. Because one of the things President Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is very firm about is, let us not waste time on blame game. We are not where we want to be. That should be enough cause for action. Let us confront our reality. Let us mobilize and take people out of poverty as quickly as we can. And to answer your question, let us also find partners with whom we share a common vision of prosperity. Today, there are other parts of the world who will tell you energy transition. Energy transition. Yes, we want energy transition, but even before then, we also want the oil and gas resources that God blessed us with to be utilized so there's privatization. We want we remove people out of poverty. We want secure homes and livelihoods across the continent. So if somebody's model of prioritization does not accord with ours, we need to either encourage or find partners with whom we are going to put pressure so that we can tell the world that, look, yes, we agree to energy transition. Yes, we agree with clean energy, clean air. But today our priority is secure neighborhoods and solving cost of living crisis, solving poverty. These are urgent issues to us. And part of the agreement on a view of development, between China and Nigeria and other countries, is to foster this understanding so that we can go to global arena and say this is how to sequence the priorities that the world should support each other.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Well, about to round up this conversation, but I'd like to get to Prof now. Professor Ibrahim, earlier you did speak and you said China seeks cooperation and not neo-colonialism, and you gave your points, but some other comments from critics would be that, Chinese investment in Africa, actually include debt trapping, economic dependence, prioritization of Chinese interest over local needs and all of that. But our own Folashade Soul of the University of Oxford has come out to say that, well, all of these partnerships and getting loans from here and there, whether China or anywhere, are good and strategic for development, but that they should look out for clean and transparent deals. Going forward, what would be your advice, to Nigeria and, of course, to the government in having to deal with countries when it comes to development, and of course we focus on China?
I see China and Africa have a clear vision, in terms of development cooperation, but all our problems are actually domestic or internal. Just like what the Honorable Minister said, we share similar political, economic characteristics in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa. All our problems are actually intertwined. So what we need to do is to actually harness clearly these particular opportunities, like the issue of loan. China discovered the kind of people we are. It doesn't even, it is not keen at giving us money, but rather giving you the loan in building the infrastructure we need. Because giving us, there is this particular concept of the poor subsidizing the rich. How does that happen? We borrow the money, we steal the money, we take it out. Another regime will come looking for money to actually input it into development project. It has to go and borrow. So the nature of interest will keep actually recycling itself. You understand? Which is actually not good for our, unhealthy for our development. So what we need to do is, China does not impose loans on you, does not force you to actually accept loans. But you know that you have development project which you need to actually execute, and you need those particular loans. So what is left for you is to make use of these particular loans judiciously. You monitor, you know, the spending of this particular money so that nobody siphon this particular money or redirect the movement of this particular money. Make sure that this particular loan and money borrowed is actually being spent, you know, on the desired, you know, project and area of need. This is one. Then secondly, when Ahmed Bola Tinubu was going to China, look at the good people he took with him. Minister, Budget and Economic Planning, Trade and Industry, Defense, you know, and the rest of them, about 5 or 6 of them, you know, apart from governors. These are key areas that Nigeria need to actually harmonize and change itself, because budget and planning, defense. In fact, foreign direct investment cannot come. Nigerians cannot invest and achieve the goal of investment if we cannot actually maintain security within our land.
All right.
So this is a priority.
Prof, thank you very much. We are almost out of time. We have just about 1 minute. Let me give it to Dr. Mali. Your final words on this Africa-China relations.
Yes, Nigeria should continue to maintain very cordial relation with not just only China, but all the other great powers. Nigeria has a lot to benefit in the areas of technology transfer. Nigeria has a lot to benefit in the area of getting foreign loans to carry out its development programs. Nigeria will benefit a lot in terms of attracting foreign direct investments.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Final word, Honorable Minister. 1 minute, please.
Well, thank you for inviting us, and I urge Nigerians to appreciate that our President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his desire to ensure that we confront our reality, is drawing attention to the necessity for us to make choices that will lead to a greater tomorrow. Only a leader that is sincere can take measures that will, he's even taking a risk in the sense that he's not looking for clap, because he believes that responsible leadership requires taking choices that will lead to a greater tomorrow.
A greater tomorrow, of course, is what Nigerians want to see. Many thanks, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning. We do sincerely appreciate you, of course, for your time and for, you know, depriving yourself of sleep and the necessary rest after your trip and joining us to talk about all of this. We do sincerely appreciate you. And of course, we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, Professor Sharif Gali Ibrahim, Head of Department Political Science and International Relations, University of Abuja, and Director of Contemporary China-Africa Research in Nigeria. Many thanks for being our guest, and we do appreciate your insights on the program.
Thank you for having me.